Welcome to the Mindfully Masculine podcast with Charles and Dan, where we take a conscious, holistic, and direct approach to relationships, mental health, and self-improvement. For additional content, visit our website at mindfullymasculine.com. And to interact with us, our guests, and your fellow listeners, join the Mindfully Masculine group on Facebook.
Good morning, Charles.
Good morning, Dan. How are you?
I'm well, thanks. I'm good. Hey, we haven't done the numbers in a while. Scale of 1 to 10, where are you at?
Ooh, all right. Let's see. I'm going to go 8.
Why 8?
Let's see. I'm trying to think of what I just thought of.
I mean, eight's an awesome number, but you know,
yeah, 8's pretty good. I invoiced a customer this morning, and they paid me almost immediately. So that's always a nice little bump when when the two emails in Outlook are the one from PayPal that says we've sent your invoice, and the very next email is they paid the invoice. It looks so nice to see that.
It really is a burden that eats at me when it's like, now I got to follow up because you're not paying on time.
I'm very fortunate that I do not have clients that I have to chase. Yeah. And I mean, am I fortunate, or have I curated that collection of clients?
Either way, or you?
Yeah, I would say some of both. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, a couple of our clients, for the marketing business, at the beginning, they would pay us. It would take a month or two before, even though, it was due on receipt. And then we'd have to chase them for a while. But then after they got comfortable and realized, they put the credit card on file. And so then
right.
it gets sent immediately. And so, yeah. So, yeah, I would give yourself some credit about curating that, either through, building trust with them, or, proving yourself,
or locking everybody out, when they're 8 hours late, locking all the admin passwords. Turning off their websites.
Wow, you only give them 8 hours. You only give them 8 hours. You don't joke around.
No, yeah, I'm very lucky that everybody that I work with is a pleasure to work with, and I know a lot of people are not quite that fortunate. So, all right, so let's see. That's one of the reasons, and got some vacation time coming up this week. Tuesday and Wednesday, I'm spending at Disney.
Excellent.
And one of those nights is at the with Disney Vacation Club, staying at the Old Key West Resort, which I've never stayed at before, and I'm very excited about that.
What do they have there that you're excited about?
Well, from what I understand, number one, I've watched some YouTube videos of the rooms, and the rooms look very nice. And I also understand that every pool at Old Key West also has a hot tub. And I'm a big hot tub enthusiast, as you know, as we've covered in excruciating detail the early days of the podcast.
You talked me into mine.
Yeah, that reminds me. When are you leaving town again, so I can have that to myself?
I'll let you know.
Okay, maybe I need to start entering you in some sweepstakes where you'll get a free trip somewhere so that I can use your hot tub while you're gone.
Just give me your email address, please. I get enough crap.
Yeah, so I'm a big fan of that. And then Wednesday, when we're at Disney, Magic Kingdom is open till midnight as a normal course of their hours. I think part of the 50th anniversary thing is they're starting to do later hours at Magic Kingdom. And then because we're staying at a vacation club resort, we're going to get an extra hour at Magic Kingdom, so I can stay at Magic Kingdom till 1 a.m.
Wow.
Yeah, which will be a pretty late night. So I'll be taking the next day off of work to recover from that.
And they keep all rides open?
That's a good question. I don't know if they keep all rides open or just like the really in-demand rides. I guess I'll find out. The big ones for me, my favorites, particularly late at night, are Big Thunder Mountain, which, the Seven Dwarfs roller coaster, which is I think that's their newest ride.
I've heard good things. I've never, every time I've gone, it's been during peak hours, and it's
crazy long waits. Yeah. it's not the most thrilling roller coaster, but it's the smoothest roller coaster that I've ever been on, which has something to say too. That's a roller coaster. I mean, compared to Big Thunder Mountain,
I was going to say you do Thunder Mountain, and then you do the Seven Dwarfs.
That ride
probably
fall
asleep on that one.
Big Thunder Mountain should have airbags on the side of the little carts that you sit in, because it just bangs you around like it's crazy. But I do like how long Big Thunder Mountain is. That's a cool part of it. That roller coaster goes forever. And then I hope the People Mover's open. That's a really fun ride to do at night when you can see all the lights and stuff around. So yeah, I'm really looking forward to Wednesday night. One of my other favorite things to do at Disney is just stand on the exit to Space Mountain, where you can see the Grand Prix Raceway, and these parents with like their little kids, like 3-year-old kids, driving the little go-karts on Grand Prix Raceway, and all they do is just slam into one side and then slam into the other. They just keep going back and forth like this, slamming into I guess the cars are on somewhat tracks, and so the kids will just go back and forth, slamming into the side, and it's a lot of fun to watch. These kids that can barely see over the steering wheel.
I mean, it's an analogy for life, right? You got to push the boundaries in order to learn where to go, where to be.
Yeah, so watching. I mean, there won't be a lot of those to watch between midnight and 1 a.m., but during the day, it's fun to watch those kids. So yeah, I'm looking forward to a couple good days at Disney.
That's fantastic. That's great.
So what about you? Where's your number?
I'm at a 9 because I had been dragging my feet on putting together a solid business plan for a new revenue stream for the marketing business. And I finally buckled down and got my thoughts together and implemented some stuff and took action on it yesterday.
Okay,
it's
nice.
In a spot where we can actually evaluate whether this is going to work or not. And I mean, we've been poking at this for like over 1.5 years. It's been way too long. And so for me to finally kind of put things together and get some clear vision on action steps and taking those actions really helped. And I'm going to attribute some of that to the bullet journaling I've been doing over the last week, because when I wasn't journaling or even writing a task list, I really felt like I was just treading water, kind of keeping my head above water when it came to all these things that I needed to do and all these ventures that are not things that were thrown upon me. These were ventures and activities that I voluntarily signed up for and wanted to incorporate in my life. And then I was really feeling overwhelmed by all of the things that needed to be done, even though it didn't really look like it was a whole lot of things or really involved in a lot of things, but I was just disorganized. And the bullet journal helped me. It forced me to organize everything. And it was as simple as just writing it down and seeing it out of my head instead of circling around, getting it all muddied and cloudy with all the other things I needed to do. Seeing an organized list and being able to refer back to it really helped me go, okay, this is not going to take that as nearly as long as my brain is worrying that it will. And so I ended up banging out a whole bunch of stuff with a lot less effort because I was able to see it out of my head. And that really led me to going, okay, it's time to tackle this gnawing project at the back of my head that's been gnawing at me for like 1.5 years. And once I did that, I got clarity. And then I voluntarily went for a run because I'm not in the Way Better program anymore. Wow. So I did 1.5 miles out on the trail, got a little tan. It was great. And through that, I was also able to come up with some problems and solutions while I was listening to music and running. For whatever reason, it seems to offer me that clarity, being outside, looking out at the trees and the open trail and having all that open space really helped me think through a few real big challenges in terms of this project. And so it was a really good day. And then met Kurt Richard out for some music and a couple of drinks last night. And that was a lot of fun. So yeah, I'm excited to continue to move this piece forward.
Excellent. That's good news. I hope for great success in your marketing company. And then I hope the podcast can get some free services.
Yeah, absolutely. We'll work something out.
You'll give us a good discount.
Yeah, friends and family.
4% off.
Three and a half.
3.5. Okay, fair enough. Yeah, that's awesome that the bullet journal is providing that kind of benefit for you just so quickly after you got into it, because you just started at the beginning of April, right, or close to the beginning of April?
A little after the beginning of April. You're like,
nice.
It'd be good to start at the beginning of the month, and I was like, I'm not ready to start it. And I was actually I was probably a week into April, so I've really only been doing it for like 2.5 weeks, but it's sloppy. I mean, it's messy. And so I didn't, I bought the actual bullet journal, official journal. I didn't use that because I knew starting out creating the different resources and pages was going to be sloppy. I'm not going to get it right. And it's a good thing I did, because it is sloppy, but the organization, the stress relief, the clarity it's given me, totally worth it.
Yeah, that's one of the things I read. I read a book called Getting Things Done by David Allen a long time ago.
Yeah.
And yeah, it's pretty ubiquitous. So I'm sure you've been exposed to it as well. And one of the biggest things in that is just relieve the pressure of keeping things in your head. Just put everything down on something that's not your mind, and you'll be able to think about other things and not worry that you're forgetting stuff.
Right.
And you can be so much more efficient when you're not constantly worried about what am I forgetting to do.
So this is a great segue for one of the problems that I have and I'm overcoming. I'm in recovery from is, I'll get it out of my head, but I have too many systems. So I've got Evernote, I've got Todoist, which was based on getting things done, that app, which is a task manager and everything else like that. I've got my Outlook calendar. I've got scraps of paper. I've got, and then I also had like the bullet journal. So I had stuff all over the place. So I got out of my head, but I forgot where I put it. And I didn't have one place to keep going back to refer to. So I've isolated that now down to certain things in certain areas, like a quick note, I'll put in Evernote if I don't have my bullet journal with me, but everything I try to put in that bullet journal. And then if it's a date specific thing, I'll put that in my calendar. So that's my method versus it was just completely disorganized all over the place. And I'm like, I'm going to forget because I don't know where it is.
Did you buy the official bullet journal app for your phone?
No, I did not.
I bought it, but I haven't even opened it since I purchased it. It's something to do with, I think it's got like a photo component where you like take pictures of your pages or something like that. But I haven't really like looked into exactly what it's supposed to do. I think it was like $5.99 or something. So I just, it's just a one-time fee. It's not like a subscription. So I just bought it, but I haven't messed with it at all. So maybe once we get through our journaling piece and I come away with fresh inspiration, I'll decide that I need to start looking into what that app does and decide if it's got a place in my workflow,
Yeah, no, for sure. Yeah. Let me know how that goes.
All right. So you want to jump in? You want to talk about journaling?
Yeah, let's talk about some journaling. So this is going to be part of the new series.
Yes, and I did come up with a name. I don't remember what it was. Hold on.
It was good. I don't remember what it was either, but it was good. Yeah, of course it was.
Be Your Best. I decided to call it the Be Your Best series. So let's see if we could big promises. Let's see if we can pull that off.
Right. Yeah.
Should have called it Be Slightly Better. That might be a little more accurate.
So I figured we'd start out talking about our own experiences with journaling.
Sure, that sounds good.
Right. And so that way people have an idea, like a starting point of, mere mortals doing this rather than, reading some of these books and being completely overwhelmed by all these systems and processes and things like that, So, originally I thought of whenever I'd heard of before I started journaling, and this was, years ago, I thought this was going to be, something like a diary, that a little girl would write in every night, whenever I heard the word journaling. I didn't really understand the whole concept of it or the reason for it. But I recently found some journals or some entries that I had written when I was after college or in college. I had worked in Germany for a while, and for whatever reason, and my mom had always told me, like, because I did some traveling when I was younger, quite a bit, and my mom would always say, "Hey, keep a journal, write stuff down." And I was like, yeah, whatever. I didn't want to have to do the extra work. I didn't want to have to think, I'm like, I'm on vacation. I don't want to have to. And that just seemed like writing and reading to me was always extra work. And I was like, yeah. But for some reason, I did it. And I recently came across those entries, and I am so glad that I did, because I got so many good laughs and so many good memories out of it. Just what I did during the day, who I was talking to, people that I had written to. And that was, before people were really using email that much. And I was sending postcards to people, and like girls that I had crushes on in college, trying to impress them, like, oh, look, I'm in Germany, and it was so for understanding my own state of mind and looking at what I was doing. And it really helped me appreciate what I was learning and who I was at that time, and reminded me of those times with such specificity that my brain would not be able to come up with now. So if nothing else, just as a fun way to, record what's going on in your life, if you're not going to, videotape yourself, have somebody follow you all the time, it's probably the next best thing.
Yeah, my first experience with journaling, I remember I was in 6th grade, and my parents bought me a journal and told me that I should, keep a record of my thoughts and stuff, just as a growing child. And I rarely and infrequently actually wrote in it. But one time I was in 6th grade. Sixth grade was the first year that I went from private school to public school. And at one point, I wasn't really that into doing any of my homework, which would follow me throughout my academic career. But really, 6th grade was the point where I started. And so at one point I was given an interim report, that comes out halfway through the semester, that said I was basically failing everything. And so when the teacher would give it to you, it would be the white copy on top with a carbon yellow copy below, and you would have to sign it and then give the carbon copy back and then take the one home to your parents. And this particular teacher didn't remember to take the signed copy back, so I had both the original and the carbon copy, and I took it home and folded it up and put it in my journal, because my parents had promised that my journal was just for me and they would never look inside of it, so I could write whatever I wanted to. So I was like, this is the perfect place for me to hide this piece of paper that would get me in real big trouble if I ever shared it.
Oh my God, that's hysterical.
And then so when my report card came out and everybody was like, how could this happen? I was like, I don't know, man. I had no clue. I didn't see this coming. And my teachers were like, but we gave you an interim report that said you were failing these classes. And I was like, can I see the signature where you gave it to me and I signed it and gave you the copy back? And none of them could produce it because they forgot.
Oh my God.
And so then somewhere months down the road, after some snooping, my mother found the copy of it in my journal, and I was like, no, fruit of the poisonous tree. You don't get to use this against me. You shouldn't have been snooping in my journal.
Oh, that is great. So what did mom have to say about that concept?
I mean, listen, do you think I was really losing arguments back when I was in 6th grade against my unprepared parents? Please.
So interesting question.
Yes.
About people snooping in each other's phones in relationships. Based on your personal experience here with the diary and mom snooping in, is that what's your thought on that? Should that happen? Should it be allowed? Should each other's partner have their passcode for the other person's phone?
No, I don't believe so. I mean, I would never request my partner's passcode. I have never and would never snoop in a partner's phone. I mean, even if I thought that there was a cause for concern, I still wouldn't do it. And,
what about the concept, if you've got nothing to hide, there should be nothing to hide?
Yeah, I mean, I still think people have a right to a place of privacy, even when they should have nothing to hide. Like you get a space that gets to be your own.
Mm-hmm.
And I I mean, if a partner ever came to me and said,
You could just
hey,
give her a diary. I mean, you don't have to
if a partner
show me your
said-
phone, but here's your diary. I promise I won't look in it.
if a partner came to me with concerns and felt like, you know, they're worried about what's in my text messages or my DMs or anything like that, then I'd be happy to, you know, say, okay, let's take a look and address this. But that's really a symptom. The bigger problem is, you know, what have I done to demonstrate behavior that promotes a lack of trust on your part? And let's get to the nitty gritty about why you don't trust me, not let's see what we can find on a fishing expedition. You know what I mean?
I totally agree.
Yeah, I wouldn't have anything. That's the other thing, because like if you're really dedicated to messing around on your partner, then you can do it in a way that you won't get caught.
Mm-hmm.
And so I don't see the efficacy of having a here's my password policy, check my phone whenever you want to, because people that do stuff like people that feel the need to give away permission like that typically are the ones that have already thought of a way to get away with something that they're, you know. The other thing is, because of the nature of the work I do, you know, I do have clients in the healthcare industry, and there's a potential that I could have, I can't think of anything with my current clients where I have any private patient data on my phone, but you know, when you deal with somebody in healthcare, it's always a possibility.
Mm-hmm.
Or that I could have a password on my phone that leads to systems that do have protected data. So for that reason, I'm going to be very judicious with who I give access to any of my data to.
Yep.
And I've never had a partner that didn't understand that, you know.
Yep.
What about you? Have you any stories where you've gotten yourself caught or caught somebody else?
Oh yeah, back in the day. Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, maybe 10 years ago, you know, the girl I was dating was like, yeah, I checked your phone and you were talking to people I don't want you talking to, you know? So she's like, I don't want you to, you know, continue to talk to these girls. And so like, she wasn't very specific. So I unfriended a whole bunch of people that I thought, you know, could be, and she got so angry. She was like, I didn't want you to unfriend everybody. So I don't know if, so then I'm like, well, wait, did you actually look at my phone? You know what I'm saying? Because she like, so it was kind of like more like, you know, she wanted to maybe figure out who was a threat, because I would unfriend them. And then she would know, you know, from that list. Yeah. I didn't quite, you know, we never made to the bottom of it. But you know, it's so, you know, I just, I changed my behavior. So I don't have to worry about that anymore. So.
Yeah, I think, I mean, it feels like the better way to handle that is to just go to your partner and say, look, are you having any interactions with anybody that if I knew the full details, I'd feel uncomfortable about it?
Yeah.
And then, I mean, if this is a person that you're willing to be in a long-term relationship with, they should be able to answer that question. Even internally, they should be like, yeah, I guess there are some conversations that if he knew about them, he wouldn't feel good. And so number one, they should be able to identify that. And number two, they should be willing to own up to it. And if you don't think the person you're with is that person, then what are you doing? You know, you're wasting your time.
Yeah. Yeah. I never went through her phone. But I agree with you 100% that it's a symptom of something larger. If you don't trust the other person enough to where you need to like go behind their back and look at stuff versus even taking their word for it, then, right. So they could say, oh yeah, I'm not doing anything. But then if you don't really believe it, there's something else going on that you need to address. And you don't believe it to the point of where you're going to then break another phone and look at what's going on. Yeah. You've got bigger problems. So, and it could be a full-time job trying to like search through that stuff. And like you said, there's ways to, you know, you could delete messages, you can use different apps, and I mean, life is too short.
Yeah. Honestly, I would not want to spend my time, you know, being a detective.
Yeah.
For somebody that obviously I assume that they're already guilty. So now I'm just trying to catch them.
Right.
It's like, no thanks.
Right. And then
I'd rather be alone.
Right.
And then live a life like that.
Right. So then if that's all the case, then the job is now you're going to try to change them.
Right. Yeah, exactly.
Okay. Good luck with that.
Yeah. Yeah. People love being changed by other people. That's usually very successful. Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. So good good
Yeah.
discussion though.
Right.
That is something
Yeah.
that I'm sure people listening have dealt with or are dealing with. And man, I definitely, I feel for you if that's a daily or weekly task that you feel like you have to manage. I would encourage you to think, okay, is there maybe another way to exist in a relationship other than, you know, wanting to worry about what your partner's up to?
Right. Yeah. And you could probably find all that out if you start a nice journaling habit, right? Journaling practice.
Exactly. Get them to start journaling and then just read it.
Yeah. So
what's the problem?
Yeah. And one of the things that I realized was journaling is really just writing anything down on paper. It's not, there's a combination of things here where sometimes it's your own thoughts. Sometimes it's planning. Sometimes it's, tasks that you're doing. It's just brainstorming. Whatever that is, it's really kind of whatever you need it to be, right? Whatever is going to relieve a little bit of that anxiety and that stress and that thing that's sitting on the back of your head, whatever that is, get that out of your head. That is my biggest takeaway from journaling. And a lot of times I see people say, hey, write down everything that you're grateful for. And I started that. And then, of course, I took it to the extreme. So at first, it was just like one thing a day. And then I saw somebody do 3 things a day. And then, somebody else I was listening to is like, oh, challenge yourself. It should be 10 new things every single day. And before I knew it, I was writing stuff down and all I was getting was a hand cramp out of it. It meant nothing to my brain. I felt no emotions because it was just such a long list of stuff. It just became numb to me at some point. And so I really wasn't feeling anything. Yeah, I was grateful if I would spend a couple minutes thinking about that, but I had to get it all done. I only had a certain amount of time. And so I was cranking these things out and I'm like, I'm not getting much out of this.
Yeah, because eventually, I mean, just like we talked about with positive affirmations, if you have too many of them, if you have too many things that you're grateful for, then eventually you might as well just cut it down to I'm awesome and I'm grateful for everything, and then just save yourself some time because once you're doing too many of either of those, then it doesn't really mean much.
Yeah. And then I kind of graduated to learning a little bit more and putting a little bit more formality around the practice when I joined the Self-Coaching Scholars Program from Brooke Castillo at the Life Coach School. And it's like a year-long program. And every month there's a different theme in terms of some sort of mental health practice that you're going to implement. And one of them was doing thought downloads every morning. And that really is just get whatever's circulating in your head down on paper. And it doesn't have to make any sense. You don't have to show it to anybody. You don't have to take any action on it. All it is really just dumping anything that comes to mind. And sometimes I'm sitting there and I'm like, oh, that's a pretty bird sitting outside my window. Or the security, the crossing guard across the street blowing the whistle every 5 minutes for the kids crossing is really freaking annoying this morning. And it's just sometimes some completely random, silly stuff. And other times it's, hey, this person pissed me off, or, I'm glad I finally had that conversation with dad, or whatever that might be.
Right.
And again, it's just more of an anxiety type of stress relief when I was doing it. And she called it a thought download. I thought that was nice.
Yeah. I like the sound of that. And there is definitely something about getting it out because one of the things that Jordan Peterson would always say that, being an organized writer makes you an organized thinker. Mm-hmm. And being an organized thinker is one of the most important things you can be. Right.
Mm-hmm.
And so, being able to do that with no pressure because you really only have an audience of yourself is definitely a great way to get your ideas out of your head at no cost as far as really effort or embarrassment. You just open the book and uncap your pen and just go at it.
Yeah, I know some people do it first thing in the morning before they even get out of bed. They'll just sit and just, write. I've never been one of those people. And I think sometimes it helps them record dreams or remember dreams.
Yeah.
I've never been that kind of person. To do it first thing in the morning. Fortunately, I'm guessing that probably can't be good for sleep if that's something running through the back of your mind, and then you have to get it out before you even put your feet on the floor. But I've heard that people will do that.
Yeah, I've thought about storing my I've got two journals that well, really three that I use frequently, and I've thought about storing them on my night table so that as soon as I wake up, before I even get out of bed, they're just right there for me to write in. But
Mhm.
haven't been able to make that a practice yet. I generally just keep them over here where I work, and either on the bench next to me or on the tabletop, and then when I come over and sit down with my coffee, then I've got this spot. This is the spot where I journal and I meditate, and so I just keep the journals here.
Have you ever had a really strong idea or thing
No,
that you're
I'll
worried
stop you right.
about,
I'll stop you
or
right there.
or
No, I've
thing that
never
you
had a
worried
strong
about
idea.
that you had while you were sleeping, and you needed to get it out immediately before you forgot it? So you need that journal right there.
No, I really haven't. I mean, even when I was doing stand-up comedy, people would talk about um, keeping something right next to your bed so that when you woke up with, you had a thought, you could write it down. And I've never done it, and I've never felt like I've lost out on it as a result. But
Mhm.
who can say for sure, right?
Yeah, yeah. All of my solid ideas come when I'm usually walking or doing some
Yeah.
sort of cardio outside. That's the honest truth. I come up with, not only do I come up with answers, but I come up with problems and questions.
Right.
I'm able to, for whatever reason, I'm able to, oh, hey, this could be an issue. And I never would have thought of that if I hadn't been outside and kind of taken myself out of the daily flow and grind of where I normally work.
Yeah, walks and showers are the two spots for me.
Okay.
Taking walks and taking showers.
Yeah.
That's where the inspiration tends to come.
Is it during your cold shower or is it during the warm shower?
No.
Yeah, I know.
The cold shower is I'm too concentrated on trying to keep my breath the way that it's supposed to be. During the cold shower, nice and slow and deep. And that takes the lion's share of my concentration when I'm doing those cold showers. Just try not to. And then also, once you get used to the cold water hitting a particular part of your body, the last thing you want to do is move, particularly to put the cold water on like this on your sides, right under your arms here, or your back. So if you're standing facing it, the last thing you want to do is turn around and have it on your back.
Mm-hmm.
And so a good portion of it is also building myself up to like, okay, you've gotten used to it hitting your chest. Now it's time to turn around and be a big boy and let it hit your back. Because it's crazy how the body responds to that when you're in there and telling yourself, okay, just stand perfectly still, and you only have 45 seconds left. You can just stand here for 45 seconds. It'll be so much easier. And then the other part of your brain says, that's not what this is about. You got to turn around so that it is difficult. You want to expose yourself to the hardship of being uncomfortable.
Have you ever done like the top of your head directly?
Oh yeah, I do that all the time. Okay. Absolutely. Okay. Yeah.
That to me is one of the colder moments, but I like it.
That doesn't bother me near as much as basically my flanks as part of my body under my arms. That is the worst part for me.
Okay.
Having the water hit that. And so I try to put myself through that on purpose, but it's tough sometimes.
It's good to get out of your comfort zone.
Yeah, I like so people tell me it is fun also doing it when I'm on vacation, when I'm staying in a hotel or something like that, and experimenting with putting that water all the way on cold, and then living with that for a while, and then bumping it all the way back up to hot right before I get out of the shower. That feels good too.
Yeah.
Especially a place that has like the rain shower heads like that go directly over your head. I love those. See, I have such short hair. I mean, I've heard from girls especially that those aren't that great because the pressure from them is not good enough to like really get the soap and conditioner out of long hair. But I have such short hair that it's not a problem for me. I don't mind it at all.
Oh yeah, I just don't use soap or conditioner. So
well, that helps too. So, yeah. Living natural. I appreciate that when I'm not sitting too close to you.
That's why we do this over Zoom. All right. Yeah. So I did some more journaling, some different methods of it, different forms of it. And it started, if you look online, people who like on Etsy, some people will make customized pages for journals where you can print them out and put them on, 3-hole punch. And so you can kind of keep them and do your own. And I mean, and there's so much out there in terms of options for how you want to set it up and what you want to track of, and the methods that work for you, whether you want to filter down tasks and carry stuff over from week to week or day to day, what you want to track in the morning. Do you want to be, do you want to say your gratitude? Do you want to write down affirmations? Do you want to draw? I mean, and that was a few years ago, before bullet journaling really exploded. And then you introduced me to the bullet journal, and I looked at YouTube, and there's so many variations. There's so many. I guess, and listening to the book, the idea is that it's because everybody is so unique in their own way, in the way they think about things, the way they live their lives, and the way they organize things and what's important to them. It just makes sense that there's going to be so many variations, right? So it's really a process to figure out what's going to work for you, and try not to get upset the way I used to get upset with myself when you're like, I'm not keeping up with this. Well, no wonder. You've got 8 different things you got to track every morning. Like, I don't have time for that in my life, So what was nice was the bullet journal teaches also some basic techniques in terms of the icons and symbols that you use that really can be used regardless of what you're tracking or how you're tracking things. Right. And once I incorporated that with some of the basic methods and things that I was organizing, that really helped me move forward, because the basic tracking of whether a task was created, whether it was done, whether it was moved to a different day, those types of things, all of that they're all designed for efficiency and time saving, right? Not only for you as you're writing, but also for your brain. So you don't have to think, well, what does this mean? It's very obvious to most people, I think, in terms of what the symbols mean and right. how to keep track of things and where to find things too. So, Charles, I mean, if you want to talk a little bit more about your experience with the bullet journal, because you're the one who told me about it. Yeah. So I don't want to step on any of your toes.
Yeah, that's the thing I like about it. And there's one part of it that I haven't been very good at developing a practice around. So I'll ask you about that in a second. But Ryder Carroll, the guy that developed it and wrote the book on it, the way he describes it is he calls it a mindfulness practice disguised as a productivity system. And it's like, oh, that just, all those words just hit all the parts of me that get all warm and fuzzy just thinking about it, Yeah. Number one, mindfulness, productivity. I mean, that sounds amazing. So when you tell me that that's what it is, and then you back it up by the content of the book, it's like, okay, I can tell this is definitely something that's going to make my life better. The part of it that I'm having I have trouble with is the rapid logging, where I've not found a good way to use it for journaling my thoughts during the day, like on an ongoing basis. I pretty much just sit down with it at the beginning of the week and then the beginning of each day, and kind of use it mostly for a to-do list and a calendar, which I then use the calendar entries. I kind of duplicate them in my Google Calendar so that I've got access to it, on my phone and my computer and wherever else, Google's available. But the rapid logging of stuff during the day, like there's an example in the book where he talks about a guy using it to log his impressions of a girl that he's dating, and like what she was like on dates that they went on. Oh, and then, right. Yes, and then she sort of breaks up with him seemingly out of nowhere. And then he goes back and looks at sort of the things that he wrote about her and his experiences with her on dates. And he's like, okay, I kind of saw this coming. And I'm also I don't feel as bad about it, because I took a record of the things that she did that I didn't really like or didn't appreciate when we were together. And like, the idea of journaling stuff like that in my bullet journal has never sunk in and put its hooks in me. I pretty much just use it, like I said, as a calendar and a to-do list at this point. But I'd like to be able to, using it that way is certainly a legitimate way to think of it, falling in that definition as a mindfulness practice. But I've not been able to do that quite yet. But I'd like to be able to figure out a way to make that work for me too.
Yeah. So through the book, he also changed a lot of my thoughts about the meaning and the power behind journaling. And so one of those is, like you said, it's a record of your thoughts about things. So it's kind of nice to be able to go back to. Now, when you are having thoughts about one person specifically, me personally, I don't want that necessarily in a journal. I don't need anybody else to see that, because he talks about, a journal could be used to pass on to your children, your grandchildren, so that they have some sort of idea of, who you are and what you're going through, in a sense, another nice way for them to remember you, when you're gone. For what you're talking about, for, dates and things that for me are a little bit more private, and that type of rapid logging, I like to do a voice to text on Evernote. And that way I am not limited by my sloppy handwriting and how quickly I can write, because a lot of times when I have to do some sort of rapid logging, when it comes to an emotional experience like that, I need to get that out. And so the fastest way for me to do that is audio. And so I will use the voice command to say whatever I want to say. And specifically, when I've gone on dates with people, right afterwards, I've sat in my car after the date, and a lot of it was to remember things that she had said, so that I remember important things that were important to her, and so I can remember and for the next time we hang out, right? And so I will open up an Evernote for a specific person, and I'll just voice dump everything that I remember from that date in there: green flags, red flags, things that she found important, things that she didn't like, all that stuff. And I'll do that with not just on dates, but when I meet people out and about, when I'm meeting new people, I've got an Evernote for all of those people. So, and that's when it's really quick, that's what I like to do now, because the bullet journal is all handwritten, right? And at least, And for that, I will, like you said, I will use it mostly for task and for tasks and calendar, and I'll separate out a day where I've got things that are scheduled for that day ahead of time. And then I leave some space on the right of that day for, as I'm going through the day, things that I think of that I need to do, ideas that I have, that type of rapid journaling, I will keep a separate section on that day. So it could be date based, it could be time based, or it could be just an idea about something. Okay. And then at the end of the day, I'll look at that pile of data and put that into, if there's tasks that need to be done, I'll put that into a future date, or just another spot where I can pull that list of tasks from for the future.
Okay. So my big takeaway is, if you're friends with Dan or you've ever been on a date with Dan, he has a dossier on you.
Correct.
So I want everybody to just, next time you're hanging out with Dan, remember that he's got a whole section all about you in Evernote with all of his opinions and your red flags and your green flags and everything about you. So, So am I in there?
No, actually you're not. You're not.
That's a little disappointing, actually,
because I get to post you every day. I get to see you every day, so I don't just But it's actually, it's for people that I've. So yeah, what's interesting is I don't keep it up after. So these are just initial, maybe first or second dates or one or two meetings with somebody until I start hanging out with them on a regular basis, and then I can't keep up with that.
That makes sense. I like that you've got that, though. That it does seem like a way to remember things about people that they think are worth sharing with someone they've just met. So obviously it's something pretty important to them.
Yeah. And I use that. And I mean, full disclosure, I use that to make a connection with that person. If I want to build a relationship with that person, I need to understand. And it's really to help my brain, because I wish I could keep it all in my brain and remember all that stuff that's important to everybody. And some people can do that. My dad's girlfriend, Bev, she's amazing at that.
Yeah.
As far as I know, she doesn't have a dossier. I mean, she could, but she will remember such little things that I brought up in previous conversations, and
Mm.
she's always done that. And that's what people love her, is because she pays attention and she remembers, and
Right.
then really cares and wants to know, like, hey, did you, how did that meeting go? I'm like, what meeting? And she's like, oh, didn't you have a meeting with blah, blah, blah? I'm like, oh my gosh, I did. I can't believe you remembered. Yeah. So you are correct, sir. I do kind of keep track of things that way.
Yeah, I mean, that does sound like a good system, and one that's working for you. I've never really done that. I guess it's because I care more about what I'm telling people than what they're telling me. So that's more important for me to remember is, the great stories that I share with others. And I mean, I suppose if anybody ever tells me something interesting, maybe I'll make a note of it, but
one day.
Yeah. But somebody else being interesting compared to how interesting I am, that's a pretty high bar. So maybe someday somebody will meet or exceed that bar. Who's to say how I'll handle that if that ever happens? Okay. So, it is good though to point out that even just recording those audio notes, I mean, that is certainly a form of journaling if you want to open the definition up to the point where it's basically turning things from thoughts into artifacts, and I think that's one way you could describe journaling, right?
Yeah. We talked, you joked about that the other day, but kind of making up definitions for stuff. But to me, it's journaling is kind of a form of meditation when you're getting that stuff, again, just pulling it out of your head and putting it somewhere else. So another form of that is talking to yourself when I'm going for, or talking to myself when I'm going for walks.
Sure.
Getting it out of my head, and it's a stress relief. It's a form of meditation that helps me actually put things together and actually solve problems that might be circulating in my head. So whether it's writing it down on paper, speaking it, and going for walks, I think we all do some sort of form of meditation, such journaling. Because I've never met anybody who goes, oh, I never talk to myself. I mean, everybody does, I think.
Liars.
I talk to the other people in my head, right? Yeah.
Yeah. That it's funny. I do listen to many times back when pre-COVID, when Sam Harris would go on Joe Rogan's podcast. I don't think he's been on really since a lot of the members of the intellectual dark web have kind of come out as anti-COVID vaccines. Okay. Sam Harris, who's definitely not that, hasn't really been appearing on a lot of their shows anymore.
Oh, interesting.
And it was funny, Sam Harris has this whole mindfulness app that I use, and it's my go-to, the Waking Up app. And he'll go on Rogan and talk about how important mindfulness meditation is to him and how effective it is. And Rogan will start going off on something about, I meditate when I run, I meditate when I lift, and say, like, that's not really meditation. And this guy who's studied under these people in India and these monks and gurus and has a doctorate in neuroscience is saying that's not really meditation. And Rogan will be like, yeah, it is for me. And Harris to his credit doesn't beat him over the head with the fact that he's wrong about anything.
Yeah, I mean, I guess I would want to know, from Harris's point of view. And in all fairness, I haven't listened to him. Is what are the benefits? What should be people getting out of meditation? Because Rogan, it may not be. I mean, and maybe what I'm talking about isn't really a form of meditation either. Because if I'm not achieving one of the aims of meditation, if I'm just getting, some stress relief out of it and getting things out of my head, maybe it isn't meditation.
I would say
maybe what is it? Are you supposed to feel, spiritually closer, to something?
Here's what I would argue. Here's how I define it, and here's how I would argue that. And again, there's different kinds of meditation. Certainly, the way I define mindfulness, though, is a focus on focusing your attention, your concentration on one thing, not two things.
Okay.
So
yep.
if you're focusing on one thing, like your breath, you can't also completely focus on trying to get your sixth rep up in the squat rack. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
So I would say, certainly squatting or going for a bike ride or flying an airplane requires a level of concentration, but I would say all those things require a level of concentration that don't allow you to also just focus on the sensation of your body or the sensation of breathing.
Gotcha. Yeah.
So if you want to define it as concentrating or putting your attention on one thing at the exclusion of everything else, then pretty much the only way you can do it is sitting in a chair or laying in bed, right?
I would agree with that.
But again, that doesn't mean there's not more than one kind of meditation. I mean, TM and mindfulness, as I understand it, are very different from each other, and that doesn't mean one is meditation and the other one is not.
Right. Yeah. And for everybody, TM stands for transcendental meditation. And we can get into that when we start doing the meditation podcast down the road.
Yeah. Yeah. I've never done it, but I've listened to a lot of people talk about it who have done it and who are, very, very into it and have reaped many rewards from it. So I know you've gone to the seminar, right?
Yeah, no, I've gotten certified in
okay.
TM. So yeah, I have done it, and I do it once in a while. I don't do it according to the best practice. And a lot of times I do fall asleep, as we've talked about before. Yeah. So but when I have done it, it definitely is a little bit more powerful and gives me a little bit longer sense of peace, calm, and relaxation than walking around the block and talking to myself. Just put it that way. Yeah.
When you're doing TM, like the way that it's supposed to be done, how would you compare it to, and we'll get into this really deep in the meditation episode or episodes, depending on how much time we want to talk about it. Yep. But TM compared to that device you got at that conference we went to, what would you say does the most for you as far as attention or relaxation or whatever it is that you're trying to get out of it? What one's the most effective, or do you use them for completely separate purposes?
I use them for completely separate purposes.
Okay.
But the physical feeling afterwards is very comparable.
Okay.
Between the two.
That device you got, it blows my mind how different my state is after I use it. It is crazy.
It's called BrainTap.
BrainTap.
Yep. And it's got an app and basically a program where you're also seeing blinking lights for your eyes, and there's some LEDs for your ears with a little bit of heat that goes in there, and then you're listening to one voice or multiple voices coming in through one ear or both ears, and it does set you in a little bit of a hypnotic state, and you definitely feel super relaxed afterwards. And when you're doing TM the right way, you will feel that way. And the difference is it's a lot less effort, just putting on this, the headset, and they have different voice programs. So if you want to listen to it for self-confidence, for sales success, for working out, for relationships, they've got every possible development or self-improvement program you want in it. And that is supposed to help kind of program your subconscious so you operate on that level without thinking about it. So I think that's very specific, and that's definitely helpful, and you definitely feel good on it. TM, when I was doing it, and when I went to a conference, like an overnight conference, it was a 3-day conference, and we stayed in a hotel, and you're doing it with people who have been instructors for like 20, 30 years and other people, and you do it in a group. It's crazy.
Yeah.
How much it's honestly, I felt like I was stoned for 3 days.
Wow.
I mean, literally walking on a cloud, and yeah, but it's peaceful, relaxed, happy. It's crazy because you're just sitting there and all you're doing, everybody's quiet and saying your mantra to yourselves, but you're just sitting in a room together doing it.
Interesting. All right, we'll dive into it. I'll interview you a little bit more about that experience when we do our episode on mindfulness. So let me let's see, we're about 53 minutes in. So let me give a preview of what we're going to talk about on the next one. So when we do our next episode of journaling, I think I can't imagine we'll need more than one more. So on the next one of the things I want to hit is talking about how to go from someone who doesn't journal at all to somebody who does journal. And we'll talk a little bit. I'll rely on you for your tiny habits stuff for how we can sort of build that habit and build that practice. We'll talk about the fact how I personally want to become someone that journals twice a day. Right now, I only do it in the morning. I want to do it in the morning and the evening. And we'll talk about why that might be beneficial and how to get going with that. I'll give a quick preview right now of the journals I use. So in addition to my bullet journal, I use two other ones. I've got this 5-year journal that I got from a company called Rustico, who does leather goods. And this is a 5-year journal. So on every page, let me go to a blank page so I don't reveal anything personal. Here's one. So every page, there is a prompt at the top and then a blank for 5 years worth of answers. So you write what year you're in and then your answer. And then after 5 full years of journaling, then you can look and see how much your mind may have changed over, a particular issue. Like this one for June 22nd is my next deadline. So what I would do is fill in, it starts with a 20. I would put in 22 on June 22nd in a couple months. And I would write down the next pending deadline that I have. And then a year after that, I would come back and write the relevant info for 2023, then 2024, 25, and 26. And I would write down all those entries. And then after the whole thing's done, I've got 5 years of stuff to look at and review on and see how much things have changed in myself or my circumstances.
I really like that. I thought it was, when you told me about that, I'm like, I'm not going to write all this stuff for 5 years, but it's not that much stuff. It's
like literally 1 or 2 sentences. Yeah.
That's great. I'm going to look into that. I like it.
So I do this one every morning. This one is Ryan Holiday's Daily Stoic Journal. So it goes along with some of his other materials like Obstacles Away, the book, the Daily Stoic book, and then this is the Daily Stoic Journal. Mm-hmm. So this one has a blank to do a morning and evening reflection. Right now, I kind of just do whichever one, depending on the time of day that I pick it up, usually morning, but sometimes I just do night, but I'd like to do both. And then in addition to this, I've got a couple other journals, but I rarely use them. I've got my, here it is, the Everything Sucks, a gratitude journal for people who have been through some shit.
Oh, nice.
And so I write in this one when I think about it, but not all that often. And to be honest, this one does seem to be geared a little bit more toward the ladies.
Okay.
One of the prompts is I feel most like Beyonce when, and I rarely feel like Beyonce. I mean, to be fair, I rarely feel like Jay-Z either. So maybe it's not, but some of the other prompts have led me to believe that it's more geared toward the ladies, but I still find value in it. And then I've got my 30-day recovery journal for No More Mr. Nice Guy, the guy who wrote it by a collaboration with Dr. Glover. And I planned on doing that one, but then that was when I realized, okay, this too many journals is too many journals.
Yeah.
I think if I was regularly using my bullet journal, then I would probably only do 1 or possibly 2 more in addition to that. Maybe the 5-year journal and the Daily Stoic Journal, my bullet journal, and then that would be it. And I would never probably crack open another one because that's already quite a bit. Mm-hmm. So we'll talk a little bit more in detail about all of those next week when we get into things a little bit more and talk about my current practice and what that looks like on a daily basis.
Yeah. I think that you can certainly get lost in all the different types of journals that are out there. And so I would say, don't do what Charles does, which is get every journal and try. I mean, you can work up to that, obviously. So it sounds like at least if Everything Sucks might be just a needs based. Well, I'm not having a great day.
Yeah, exactly. That's what I typically use it for.
Yeah, I'm gonna crack that one open. It's not like an everyday type of thing. Bullet journal is really designed for a task management type of journal that also can record some thoughts, and you can expand that. Obviously, for me, really the key is the filtering of the tasks. And one thing that I really appreciated with that was he reminded me that by writing things down, it really forces you to say, do I need to do this task? Is this important or is this urgent? And if it's not, you can just cross it out. So what happens is if you don't get it done that day, you might want to carry it over to the next day, but you have to rewrite it on the next day's page.
Yeah, exactly.
And so now there's a cost, and it forces you to just pause for a second and go, do I really need to do, is it really worth me writing this thing again in order to get it done? And that is one of the greatest little forced practices that happens to me, because a lot of times I'll just when I was doing everything electronically and there was no effort required to carry things over, and I would just, all I need to do was click and say snooze and remind me on another day or time, that wasn't enough effort for me to pause and go, is this worth me doing at all? And then by paring everything down, it's similar to, Charles, your passion for being a minimalist. It's actually, reducing the amount of clutter, the amount of moving pieces in your life by getting rid of and forcing you to prioritize and say, hey, is this important? So that's one of the things you learn through the bullet journal method, carrying things over from week to week or even month to month, and whether it's worth it or not.
Yeah, definitely spending time purging your life of the unnecessary is something that you don't think that there's a cost by having a ton of things saved in your cart on Amazon, and you don't think there's a cost of having stuff on your shopping list that you don't really need but you'd like to get around to it whenever. No, when you find yourself looking at the same things for too long that you're not actively working on acquiring or working on getting done, it's like it's not free to have that stuff just dragging you around. Just get rid of it, and if you need it back, then it'll come back to you and you'll say, oh, I needed that thing. I mean, I know people that do that with their email, where stuff sits in their email long enough, they just delete everything and they're like, okay, if there was something important in there, then the person will email me again.
Yep.
And if it wasn't important, then I didn't need to keep it anyway.
Yep. Yeah.
So the purging of unnecessary things is definitely something that you can apply to pretty much every aspect of your life, not just your task list and not just your the stuff you keep in your house. It's really stuff you don't need that you're carrying along just gets heavy. The longer you carry it, the heavier it gets.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and it's nice. You get a little sense of freedom and flexibility, and that allows you to enjoy time away on vacation. A lot less stuff floating through your head. You can really get back more in that moment and become more mindful, become more present by doing so. So, this is good.
All right, I enjoyed part 1 of journaling, and I'm going to enjoy part 2 even more. So we'll come back together and do that here in a few days. Okay.
All right, sir. We'll talk to you soon.
All right. Take it easy.
Bye-bye.
Bye. Thanks so much for spending time with us on the Mindfully Masculine podcast. If you liked the episode, or you think it would be useful for someone else, please leave us a review and join the Mindfully Masculine group on Facebook. Remember, fellas, don't act masculine. Be masculine.